Thank you so much to everybody for coming to our private transfer panel of the year. We just have a few things to go over and then we'll jump right into the questions. For the agenda today, we're gonna have two parts. First is gonna be a general Q&A, and then the second part is we're gonna go into breakout rooms where y'all can ask more like specialized, specific questions to each of our panelists. And if you had questions for both people, don't worry, you have the chance to be in both breakout rooms, okay? And then we're gonna have a little bit of closing at the end, and then it's gonna be a great time. So, for starters, we're just going to talk about our program really quickly and a little bit about what Mentors is from our very own lead mentor.
Yeah, thank you. So if you guys don't know, I'm the lead mentor for Mentors at Anza, and I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces as well. A lot of mentors and mentees are here, which is awesome. Um, but for those that are unfamiliar about Mentors at Anza, we're a student-run program under the Office of College Life, and our main purpose is to connect current students who want to seek help with experienced students who want to share resources to help navigate De Anza. So whether that ranges from academic to extracurricular to transferring. Um, your mentor can help point you to like the programs that will enhance your, I guess, college experience. Um, and then besides just peer mentors and peer mentees, we also have the senior mentors, which is us. We oversee the mentorship program and we're responsible for pairing peer mentors and planning events like mixers and like transfer panels like this run right now, um, as well as marketing. We will be opening up applications towards the early spring. So if you're interested in helping out mentors at the ANZA, keep your eyes open. Yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you so much, Victor, for the introduction. And then for some community guidelines, please don't message anything in the chat. If you do, it will get removed immediately and you will get kicked out of the Zoom. But if y'all do have any questions that you would love to ask the panelists in like the general Q&A, think like general private transfer questions versus like specific questions for the person or for the school. Save that for the breakout rooms. But if y'all had any general questions, please send them to any of the senior mentors or any of us that have the purple background behind us, or just send them in the chat. We're going to put them in a document and then they'll be up next to be asked. And then without further ado, if the panelists wanted to introduce themselves, that would be amazing.
Thank you, Allison. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Nicole. I went to Foothill from 2022 to 2024. While I was at Foothill, I majored in sociology, while also getting certificates in data analytics and humanities. I use she, her pronouns, by the way. I go to Stanford now. At Stanford, I'm majoring in symbolic systems. And for career goals, I hope to get into ed tech in the future.
Right. Hello, guys. Thank you for having me here today. I am Ted Naung, pronouns he, him, and I was from Anza since 2023 through 2024, where I graduated last spring. I now go to MIT, majoring in artificial intelligence and decision making. And my career goals are just to work in AI research, especially in healthcare and biology.
Okay, thank you so much for the introductions. And then, Tracy, if you wanted to start with the first question.
Yeah, we can get like right into it. So the first question is, how did you craft your personal statement to show you're a good fit for a private school?
So interestingly enough, the when you're applying to private schools, it might differ from school to school, but for a lot of them, there isn't really a personal statement, but rather a why do you want to transfer essay, which I guess you can consider your personal statement. Um, and when I was crafting my why do I want to transfer, I really thought a lot about the schools that I was applying to and what programs or resources they offered that would benefit me and my, career goals or research goals or academic goals. And so I talked a lot about what I did during community college, and what I got involved with in community college, and what kind of resources or programs or clubs that the schools I apply to offer that are very similar to what I'm currently doing at community college. So connecting kind of the current passion that you have that you are pursuing at community college to the institution that you are applying to is really important. These institutions want to see that you're going to make use of the resources that they have, and to kind of show that level of ambition and kind of grit and determination is really important.
Yeah, I also agree. And to add on to like the tailoring the application, I also try to tailor what the school is looking for. So for example, MIT would say something like they value people who enjoys collaboration or like academic curiosity. You can just see it on the website generally. There's gonna be a section like what we are looking for. So after I understand what they're looking for, I try to tailor my extracurriculars and application essays in a way that shows that I am a good match for that kind of institution. So I would add the times where I would collaborate in like a bunch of robotics projects, or the times where I would collaborate with other people in hackathons, things like that. So I just basically try to show the institution that I am a good fit for the institution's culture as well as what they try to do. And also, of course, you also have to show that you will be utilizing um, what they offer in that institution to the fullest. So for the question of why you are considering transferring to this university, you also have to look for what kind of resources that they would offer that it is like a good match for you. So for example, for me, I did something like the MIT's innovation system is something I really enjoy. So I like research into like all the resources that are available for innovation. So and then I try to like find them out in my application essay that I enjoy collaboration and that I would like to utilize so and so opportunities in this new school if I were to transfer.
And then on the theme of like your application, what specific parts of your application do you think made you stand out as a transfer applicant specifically?
For me, I actually had a really unique academic background when I was applying. So when you apply to private schools, you do need to submit like your high school record or whatever institution you did prior to going to community college. And I was actually a really poor student in high school. I had like a 2.9 GPA, barely crossed the stage, was really a bad student. And so out of high school, I didn't really have any opportunities to go to a 4-year. So I had to go to community college. I honestly think that people assume that just because I had a poor academic history in high school, that it would negatively affect my application. But I actually think that it helped me a lot. It showed the kind of growth I had during community college, and the determination I had to give academics a second chance, even when I failed the first time. And so that was a really big thing. So if you come from like a similar background as me, where you weren't really the best student in high school, don't worry about it. It's really about making the most of the opportunities that you have now, and that's what they want to see. Another thing that I think really helped me stand out as an applicant was that I had a very unique spike.
to the Anza private school panel.
I had a very unique spike. And so for those who don't know what a spike is, it's basically when you craft your application or you get really involved in one thing rather than getting involved in a lot of things. So I tell a lot of people who ask me questions about like, how can I stand out? That they should have a spike. So a spike ideally should be tailored to what you're majoring in at community college. So for example, just to make it a little bit clearer, because I don't think I explained it really well. My spike during community college was the sociology of education. So I was majoring in sociology, and I got involved with a lot of extracurriculars that surrounded around educational empowerment, educational advocacy, specifically within the California community college system. And so a lot of what I did during my time at community college was centered around student leadership within the California community college system, and getting involved with learning about educational inequities on various levels. I got involved in a statewide board in the system. I did research on how Indigenous communities access higher education institutions worldwide. And so just by hearing all of this, you can tell that I have a very specific interest that I kind of went like ham on. Like I really got involved in this because I cared so much about it. And I think just having like that personal drive, to learn about something is very important, and that will allow for you to put yourself out there when you're looking for opportunities. But those are pretty much, I think having a spike is really important, especially because you're already at a higher educational institution. You hear a lot about like first year students needing to have spikes, but I think it's even more important that as like a community college student or anybody who's applying to transfer, that they already have, something that they're interested in and something that or things that they're getting involved in that are related to what they're interested in.
Right. I definitely agree with what she said. So for me, I did actually talk to one of the transfer admissions officers from MIT. I was like, what made me stand out in this application? And I guess like everything can basically be summarized that I had a very unique story. So also for background, I am an international student for Burma. Um, my academic background wasn't the best back in high school too. I didn't finish my senior year because I dropped out, and which is why I couldn't go to four-year universities and I had to come to community college. But even despite all this, like even though it might seem like a weakness on paper, I realized I could turn this into a story of resilience and strength, and turn this into my strength. So this is essentially what I did. I took like very rigorous classes. I overloaded credits every single quarter, like 25, 26 credits every single quarter. I tried to utilize all of my opportunities. The part about a spike in application is also super important, and I try to emphasize that in my applications as well. I think my spike but in my MIT application was that I really enjoy collaboration. So, for example, it could be anything really. It wasn't even limited to a particular field like computer science, but because I was also a student government senator in Anza as the elections commissioner, and in my committee, I had to like work with other people to effectively send the message of elections across the campus, and work with other committees across like student rights, marketing, things like that. Um, but yeah, other forms of collaboration also includes like we participating in hackathons, working on projects, essentially things like that. What else is there that made me stand out in the application? Um, but yeah, essentially, that's about it. My strength was that I really, really enjoy collaboration, and I try to show that in my application. And because MIT values collaboration so much, I believe that was the main thing that allowed me to get into such a prestigious institution. I guess my only tip would be that think about something that really makes you unique and stand out from all the application. Whether it could be your life experiences, what you did, or what you're trying to do in the future. I'll try to emphasize them really, really well in your application, and I think that will really put you in a favorable spot in the decision.
Sounds great. And since we are on the topic of extracurriculars, how much did extracurriculars play into your admissions? And how did you manage to balance the workload between taking so many credits during school and social life as well?
I think extracurriculars are the most important part of your application. But when I say that, I don't think people should go out of their way to kind of stack their resume and just kind of stack all these things and do a bunch of things just to have something. Because like along with the whole spike advice that I was just giving, impact is super important. It's better when you have a few extracurriculars that you have leadership in that are very impactful to your community rather than a very long list of extracurriculars that you're not super involved in or don't have a lot of leadership in. So that is something that I think is really important. I feel like people are constantly thinking like, okay, what else can I add to my application that's gonna make, make me look like a better applicant. But really, what private schools are looking for are, someone that has made an impact to some degree. It doesn't have to be like a national level of impact or statewide. It can be something within your direct community. And I've actually talked to a lot of transfers at Stanford, and a lot of them didn't have like these insane resumes and these insane backgrounds where they won like national math Olympiads. They're really just people who are really passionate about something and brought this passion to their community. And so I think that's like kind of my take on the extracurriculars. They're definitely important, but don't get lost in that mindset where you're just like, I need more extracurriculars, because getting really involved with a few things is really enough. And they want to see that dedication. In terms of how I balanced my extracurriculars with everything else, it was really hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like Ted, I also kind of like maxed out on all of my units every single quarter, and was doing a lot of things at the same time. And so I definitely am not going to sit here and say like, oh, that was so easy, because it really was not. But I like found myself like reminding myself that I should be only getting involved in the things that I care about, and the things that I want to get involved with. This goes back into the whole advice of like not just getting a bunch of things and stacking your resume. And I really redefined like what I cared about and what I could do to make an impact within the Foothill community, and really honed in on those. And so kind of setting boundaries in that aspect definitely did help with kind of managing the academic and social life. But yeah.
Before I answer the question about time management, I would also like to point out like the transfer population here at MIT. I did talk to a bunch of them. None of them actually really did like some crazy, insane, things like national competitions or like Olympiads or things like that, even though MIT is like really insane with all these people. I really didn't find myself like talking to a lot of people who were transfers like that. Um, and also like during that same talk with the transfer admissions officer, he mentioned that transfer students, they're looking for someone who can like truly offer like a unique perspective to the currently existing community of first years. He pointed out how like in general transfer students have lived like more life and have more life experiences. So like they really truly expect something that it's like unique and special and that happened in their life, not necessarily academics, because MIT or like Stanford or all these universities already have like applicants and students already who's like fully stacked. What they want as transfer students is something that's like really special and something that hasn't really been offered in like these first year batches, and like what essentially like just giving those students a chance at trying for these institutions. Well, for balancing time, I'll be honest, I really did not have a balanced work-life schedule. So like there were like a few times where like I would have physics labs that ends at like 11 o'clock at night, and I will only get back at like 1 o'clock. Oh, those are very interesting times. But yeah, all I wanted to say is like you should try to stay efficient in how you work, and that goes to like everything else. Aside from the classes, your extracurriculars, just try to stay efficient. And trying to stay efficient means, you know, just being involved in the things that you're really passionate about and things that you know are beneficial for you. Resume stacking isn't something that I necessarily encourage as well, because it is like admission officers, they have worked in this field for like 40 years. They know when someone's just like trying to stack that and not really passionate in what they do. So it is gonna be like a really big red flag to them. So I just like also suggest that you should also be involved in things you care about. And for like working efficiently, I just suggest, whenever you feel like you're ready to work, you just like work. And when you feel a bit burnt out, you can like switch over to other categories of things that you enjoy doing. Like, for example, maybe you're like super tired after your calculus finals. You could just like take a break from studying, because you know that if you study, you're not gonna really get enough information from that. So that you could do other things like maybe joining like a working on your other social extracurriculars like student government, club projects, meetings. You could of course, yeah, just like try to manage what you invest in and where you invest in your time. That is not to say that you shouldn't only be involved in the things you care about all the time. for like especially for like first year, it is okay to explore during the first year. I explore a lot of things. Before then, I tried to like look for like volunteering opportunities, and of course, I didn't really like that, so I just like dropped them like in like the third quarter. I like Well, my point is that it's okay to explore first year and like try everything, but as you go along your community college journey, it is good to like see what sticks and what you're really passionate about, so that you can like focus on those fields and have a spike in your application that really creates a huge impact on your community, as well as showing your skills, whether it be leadership or technical.
Okay. Staying on the topic of extracurriculars for now, as Deanza and Foothill alum, were there any programs specifically like from the college or through the college that you think heavily contributed to your transfer admission? I know both of y'all were in your respective student governments at the time. And how did you find out about them? Was it competitive? Um, just talk a little bit about like the extracurriculars that you did on top of the workload.
Yeah, so I did do student government at Foothill, which is called the Associate Students of Foothill College. So my experience will be tailored to what was offered at Foothill, since I didn't go to De Anza. But I got involved with the student government at Foothill because um, I really wanted to learn more about the institution I was attending. I think we all know that going to a community college, it's kind of more disconnected than a traditional 4 year. And I know people at De Anza and at Foothill are like making efforts to build a community when even though kind of the nature of community college is a little bit less social. And so I really wanted to get involved with building this community at community college, just because Foothill is not actually my local community college. It's pretty far. I had to commute often. And so I wanted to kind of build a home away from home, because I was just at Foothill like literally 5 times a week until like 7 p.m. every day. But so that's why I ended up getting involved in student government. And from there, it really took off. I mean, I can't speak to how much I love ASFC, Foothill Student Government, and DASG. I did a lot of work with people who were involved with DASG during the time I was involved with Foothill Student Government. And this is kind of the best place where you can find a lot of opportunities. So from getting involved in student government my first year, I was like a board member, kind of, I think, like similar to an intern here in the DASG. But and then I ran for the student trustee position the end of my first year, got elected, and from there I really got involved in a lot of meaningful things. So within the student trustee role, I sat on the board of trustees and represented the Foothill College student body. Javier was the De Anza student trustee when I was the Foothill student trustee, and we did a lot of advocacy across the state of California within the community college system, and also did things on the national level as well. You know, we got to meet congresswomen, get involved in state legislator. It was really cool. And then from there, from my student trustee role, I got elected into the statewide student trustee role, where I served on a board of, I think, 21 other trustees, but I was the only student trustee. And so it all started at like student government, really. And so um it's really about, like, in terms of like finding extracurriculars that you want to, get involved in and create high impact, like looking at what's like available and really digging for it, because oftentimes it's hard to stumble across or know about these extracurriculars because again, like community college can be a little bit disconnected, but it's always helpful to reach out to alumni or a student who's, like a second year or third year at De Anza if you're a freshman, and learn about their experiences and get involved really early on. I think it helped that I joined student government so early to allow myself to learn, um, have more time to learn, and then figure out what I wanted to do. But that's kind of the biggest thing I did while I was at community college. Sorry, what was the second half of the question? It was like,
It was just about like, how did you find out about the extracurriculars that were on campus, and were they difficult?
to
Were they competitive? Yes.
Well, it depends. I think at Foothill, not really, just because there is a smaller population at Foothill in comparison to De Anza, so there's just naturally like not as many people competing for these extracurriculars. So I didn't find them to be competitive, but it was just hard to find out about them because not a lot of people were getting involved in these extracurriculars. So as I mentioned, it's helpful to talk to alumni or students who have been at your institution for longer than you've been.
Right. For the question of, how I found my extracurriculars, it is a funny story. For the student government, I was like looking for an internship, and I talked to like someone about like that I'm looking for like internships, and he was like, "Yeah, you should go to this place. They have like internships offers and things like that." And I thought it was like some kind of software engineering internship, so I went to the meeting. Totally didn't expect people talking about free market or environmental sustainability, and then I was like super confused. But then I later like did more research into it, and I found that the other student government works in these things, and they seem like a really cool committee. Also seem like they make a tangible difference in students' lives, and I just like decided to continue. I didn't really know anything about how the structure works or anything. I just wanted to be there and like understand what's going on in campus, which is why I missed my first elections. So I didn't got elected as a senator, but like only after like the next academic year, I ran as a midterm senator and I became an elections commissioner. In my time as election commissioner, I really enjoyed the student government. I felt like, I just like really like working in like meaningful things that made a difference. Promoting elections has been really awesome. Like at first, when I first got into the position, not many were like aware of a student government even, or like that the elections were happening, and like I tried to like work with the outreach team and everything to like raise awareness about elections that are going to be happening on winter. Um, Personally, it is also good to have like people around that sticks by. Whereas like after most classes, like after like a quarter, most people just like go away and we lose connection of those people forever. But like for things like student governments and clubs, you have the same people who are like coming all year round, and like I feel like it is easy for you to like get close to people and like finally become actual friends with them. And that really helped in getting like a stronger support system and understanding that I'm not alone. Like, I got people who, can support me throughout my academic journey. The second resource that I thought was really helpful was the honors program. I was also an honor student. I tried to like even present at like the honors symposium, but I didn't get into it, which is fine. Um, I really like the program because it gives you an opportunity to enroll in honors courses. And honors courses are just like regular courses, but they just like have like one or two extra projects to work on throughout the entire quarter. And like just for like one or two extra projects, you can have the honors designation on your transcript. It is debatable if it makes an actual difference in application, but I mean, I would love to maximize my chances just for like an extra project. So I really continue like taking honors courses and maybe possibly show the admissions committee that I had like the academic readiness to tackle their classes. It also allowed me to work on honest research paper projects. And because I had to like work on research paper projects throughout the entire semester, I was I was like forced to communicate with all the professors there and like grow closer to them and then like for them to like actually get to know me. And I think that really, really helped me in my recommendation letters because like unlike UCs or like some other universities, private schools really, really want recommendation letters. So it is really important for you to find someone who actually knows you and like who can say really good things about you. And I really think honors program helped in me getting those kind of strong recommendation letters. Um, Going back to that talk with my transfer admission officer at MIT again, he told me to thank my recommendation letter providers because like they really make a difference in like deciding who gets admitted and who doesn't. So like recommendation letters are really important for like these universities because like all of the applicants who are applying to there are obviously super stacked. And like sometimes the only difference that makes or breaks a student's admission is whether like they have people supporting them and and like can like who can like vouch for them. And that comes in the form of recommendation letters. Um but yeah, for like in terms of competition, for student government, I'm not really sure about this year's cohort now, but it must be like super competitive. Trust me, I work in elections. I know how competitive things can get. It probably is the case this year, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, it can be competitive. So like I do encourage you to like be more connected with the community there to like actually give and provide an appearance and show your work ethic consistently throughout. And like, understand that you are a responsible person who is willing to like work on things that that the organization will assign you. So like people can understand you're this hardworking person and they can vouch for you during like elections or anywhere where you will get elected to these kind of positions.
Sounds great. Thank you for sharing about that. And then this will actually be our last extracurricular question before we move into a new topic. But is there anything like personal projects or anything you did outside of school that you counted as an extracurricular? And do you think it like helped your application in any way?
Um, no, I don't think I had any personal projects that I included in my extracurriculars list. I think pretty much everything that was on my list was something that I did through Foothill or some program within Foothill. But I did like include that I was a caretaker for my grandma, which is not a project, so to say, but it was something more personal that I did dedicate time to. And so that's something I also included in my application. You don't need to think of extracurriculars as something that has to be school affiliated. It can be, again, like as this question like prompts, like something personal to yourselves or something that you're doing by yourself. Uh, but I also included that I like worked part-time. Yeah, pretty much those were like more of the personal things that I included.
I actually did include a ton of personal projects. Like, so MIT provides you like with four main extracurriculars that you really think are the most important in your application, and I included two of them as my personal projects. Um, the first one I wouldn't necessarily get into it. It gets kind of complicated, but it is a really good project. But for the second project, it was just a basic educational website that I did when I took like a year off after I dropped out of high school in senior year. I had like all the time in the world. I realized that some people needed access to education back where I came from, and I really wanted to work on like a website that provides like free international education learning aid. So I just like basically formed a team and like try to like recruit people to join my project. And like we had like these mock weekly meetings and like trying to like a work organization. So like we worked on content creation, website building, and that just happened for like an entire year. And I think that also showed my initiative, and like how I'm like really willing to make a tangible impact. Because like when I dropped off senior year, I really did not have like a support system or like resources for me to cling to. And I guess like and that influenced my personal philosophy of like if you don't have anything that you could utilize right now or make an opportunity for yourself, there's always something that you can really work on. It doesn't have to be anything that's like traditional. You don't have to join clubs, student governments, um, honor societies, whatever. It can be something that you really enjoy doing by yourself or that you explore independently, and that will also count as a really good extracurricular that makes you stand out and shows the ambition community about who you are. But yeah, I did include two projects, and it was an educational website. I think that really demonstrated my leadership and my willingness to make an impact on my community.
Okay, moving on to other aspects. What was the biggest academic adjustment when transferring from a community college to a private institution?
Oh my God, the academic rigor. I thought that I would be somewhat prepared because Stanford is all on a quarter system like Foothill and Anza. And so I was like, oh yeah, like quarter system, I've already been through that. And I also, like as I mentioned earlier, like took a lot of units while I was at Foothill. So I thought I would come in pretty prepared. But it was actually really hard. And I found that out pretty quickly once I started my first quarter at Stanford last fall. I went from like doing 20 units like at Foothill, like 2025, to like doing the bare minimum here and still feeling like I had no time for anything. And so that's like I think that would have been like the biggest struggle, like not just academic struggle, but really the biggest struggle of transferring to um, any university. It's not just private universities. I know my friends who are attending like public institutions, like the UCs, are also struggling. And so that's something to be prepared for. And yeah, I mean, I felt like I struggled a lot my first quarter, but as like as it went on, I kind of knew um, how many units would be a good fit for me, what classes I should be taking to, balance out my requirements and something that a class like I would just want to take for fun. And then what I'm getting involved with additionally, just because so much of what you do outside of your academics here, like at Stanford, rely on kind of the circumstances of your academics. So like if you're taking a bunch of classes, like you probably have like no time to do anything else, and that's like totally fine. And that's kind of like what I was in. I mean, like I could really only get involved in like one club and still feel like I was so overwhelmed. But that was definitely like the biggest struggle that I had adjusting.
Man, academic adjustment, where do I even begin? Yeah, I mean it's MIT. That was an insane first semester. I thought I was fairly prepared because for like MIT transfer student, you have to restart your sophomore year, so you enroll as a second year regardless of your academic standing in your previous institution. So like I had to retake a few of my classes that I took in community college, like linear algebra or physics. And so I thought, I already have like a base foundation and I can like probably relax. But no, that was not the case. On the first week, we had this linear algebra lecture, and I remember thinking, well, this is something that will be covered in community college for like a week. And they cover like a week's worth of community college material in a single 1 hour lecture. And I thought that was like insane. But yeah, so like academic adjustment was kind of difficult at first, but once you like get into your element, like you finally understand what they are demanding of you, I feel like you slowly start to get better and like understand how much you have to put in the work while also maintaining a balance between your social life, your extracurriculars that you'll still be doing in your transfer school. So yeah, you do tend to get better by the end. This semester I'm like just taking the bare minimum, two STEM classes, two humanities, not too special. But although like I'm like doing two research positions, but it is like another story. But yeah, I guess time management also becomes like a lot more important when you transfer because those institutions they're gonna demand a lot out of you. Um, Whereas like you could survive maybe like a STEM class in community college using like what 5 hours a week. You're gonna at least have to dedicate like 10 hours per week for each single class. So I think this is also really important to keep in mind whenever you transfer to any universities, really. UC Berkeley, UCLA, any universities. It is gonna be much more harder than what community college has make you think that the academic rigor is gonna be.
As we are on the topics of like um doing your applications and handling that, how did you prepare for an admission interview if you did have one, and how was that process? Or like what strategies helped you succeed?
So Stanford didn't require interviews. They don't do interviews, period, for transfer applicants. But I did have one for Yale, and it was the only interview that I had. And I do think a lot of the Ivy League institutions do have some form of interview. But I mean, prepare for the interview like you would for any job interview. It helped for me to like reach out to Yale transfers like on LinkedIn and just tell them like, hey, I applied to Yale for as a transfer. I got an interview, like what can I expect? And then just having that conversation with someone who's been through it was really helpful. And I like prepared a lot for the interview. And the interview, I feel like I ended up over preparing because it was just like having a conversation with like a Yale senior. And so I felt like really comfortable and it was really easy to just talk about my passion and what I was doing at community college. And so, reaching out to uh like transfers at the institutions that you're applying to once you hear that you do need to do an interview was like super helpful. Like they gave me a lot of tips on what I should prepare and what I should think about for the interview.
For MIT, I didn't have to do any interview, so I don't think I'll be able to assist with that because that was like the only private institution I applied. But the same advice follows. Just treat it as if it was a job interview. Doing your homework is super important. Just like researching whatever they might be asking or like what points you should bring up. So yeah, just like coming to the interview with a basic understanding of what you are supposed to answer and what you should answer.
Lovely. Okay, moving back a little bit to talking about your life after transferring to the school you're at now. How was acclimating to not the academics, but maybe like the extracurriculars on campus, the social life on campus, clubs, stuff like that? And did you think that you had a hard time as a transfer?
No, I don't feel like I had a hard time because of the transfer community at Stanford. One of the reasons why I ended up choosing Stanford among the other private schools that I got into was because Stanford had a little bit of a bigger transfer community compared to these other institutions. Maybe Ted can speak to like what the transfer population is like at MIT, but at Stanford, it's like this year's cohort was around 60 transfers, which is quite a lot in comparison to other institutions. I know Yale, like it was like 18 people, and I was like one of 5 people who got admitted from California. So it was like a little bit crazy. But I really wanted to um, pick an institution where I feel like I wouldn't have felt like an outcast. And so the transfer community here has been like really helpful, and they're like my second family. We are like a tight-knit group, but it's with people that I know have shared similar experiences to me and are experiencing Stanford for the first time, like Frosh, but we're not, new to college. It's not our first time experiencing college. And so they've been like my kind of rock throughout this, like adjusting to the social life here. And one thing I was really afraid of when prior to like attending Stanford was kind of um, the transfer bias. I know this exists at some UCs where transfers are kind of looked down negatively upon or are excluded from certain extracurriculars just for the fact that they are transfers. But I didn't find that to be the case at Stanford at all. Actually, a lot of the best conversations I've had with like faculty at Stanford and just regular like peers and classmates is like about my background as a transfer student. And so they're always like everybody at Stanford is always super interested to hear more about what it's like to be a transfer here, and they're always super willing to go out of their way to make sure that you feel involved. And so that was definitely my experience when I was like kind of exploring clubs for the first time during my first quarter here. But in general, like everybody's been super welcoming. But like you kind of have to put yourself out there. You can't really expect to adjust like socially. Just when you step foot on campus, you definitely do need to make the effort to go to club meetings, talk to people, and reach out. But yeah, that was my experience.
Well, 60 people, that's a lot of people. But yeah, for MIT, there's like 28 people that transfer in this year. It is a really small, tiny community. Um, and because of that, I think I also like grew really close to the transfer community there. I remember so many instances where I would be like working on a problem set at like 1 o'clock at midnight, and after we finish, we just like run for like midnight chicken wings at like the nearest local Cambridge store or something. So it was a really good memory, and that's which is why I never really felt like socially excluded or anything after a transfer. I do know that most of the universities they do share like this kind of transfer bias that exists. The problems of not fitting in or things like that. But I don't think I necessarily experienced that. Matter of fact, when I say like to those MIT students, I'm a transfer student, they would oftentimes ask, they are transfer students because like there's only like so few of us here. There's only like what 70 people across all undergrad population, so most of them don't even know. And they just like after they find out you're a transfer student, they usually just like their expectation just like shots up because they expect the competition to be like much harder in transfer applications. So yeah, so like academic expectations or anything, I didn't really feel this kind of bias. Also because we had to do like a transfer orientation separately, as well as also having to join like a first year orientation with the class of 2028. So I really made friends with a lot of the first years and also like grew close to the community that are like transfer students. And additionally, like I rushed a fraternity during like their rush events in like the previous year. So and I got into like this kind of startup be nerdy community of fraternity brothers. And they have also been like really helpful. They usually just like would like take me out to lunches and stuff and like talk and give me advice and mentorship because they have been around for like much longer. And I really appreciate the support that I got there too. For extracurriculars, I know about Berkeley's 5% or like 1% acceptance chances clubs for transfer students, but I never really experienced that. In my first semester, I joined the Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Club at MIT. It was like a fairly competitive cohort. So like every year they picked like what 30 people to work on like a machine learning project, and I got in. So there is no like transfer bias at all, and I really appreciate that fact about private institutions in a sense that transfer students are treated as like a how do you say a diverse community with unique perspective who are equally valuable as first year rather than somebody like who should be like stigmatized or like biased just because of their different life experiences.
Thank you for sharing. I think we can go into another question about just Stanford and MIT overall. So I assume you both did apply to like other schools. What made you choose the school you're going to right now?
It was really hard, actually. I committed to Stanford the day it like the decision to commit was due, and I actually committed to Yale at first, but then I decommitted and then committed to Stanford. So it was a really hard decision, but I think it ultimately came down to one, the social aspect, as like I mentioned earlier. I know a lot of Stanford tends to be more compassionate with community college transfers, and there were just more community college transfers at Stanford than Yale. And so I felt like I could have a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, who shared a similar experience as to me, and people who I could, rely on. And so that was a big thing. Another thing was like Stanford kind of had my dream major, that I kind of knew that I wanted to do since I like attended Foothill, which was their data science and social systems major or their symbolic systems major, which are very unique to Stanford. And so I applied to those two majors when I was doing my Stanford application. And so they gave me like a great interdisciplinary learning environment where I could take classes in both the social sciences, and also get involved with a lot of quantitative work and, data science and like CS. But that was like a really big thing for me. So the programs that they offered here at Stanford, like their majors and the social life was why I ended up choosing Stanford ultimately.
For me, first off, it's MIT, so I really like the academic rigor and like the research fields that they offer. But secondly, because it was like the only good school that I got into. I did apply to a bunch of UCs and other private universities who are like technical heavy. So for example, things like Georgia Tech, University of Washington. Um, I tried applying to Stanford, but they didn't let me apply because I didn't have a high school diploma, which is super weird because like I finished community college. I've shown that I have done community college coursework, but apparently it wasn't enough and that they wanted like a proper high school diploma, so I couldn't apply there. But yeah, I applied to UCs and a bunch of technical private universities. But I ended up getting waitlisted from UC Irvine. I ended up getting rejected from UCLA, UC Berkeley, Georgia Tech, University of Washington. And by the time MIT rolled around, I only had like two or three universities under my belt. and I legit did not expect to get in. But like apparently I got in. I was like so shocked. I had no idea what happened. Like what did those like big people at MIT saw in me? I have no idea. And I really wanted to like talk to the admission officer. And yeah, I mean he did provide me with some cool explanation, I guess. But yeah, I'm like that was like the only good school I got into, and I'm grateful that that ended up being my first choice.
Okay, lovely stories. And Nicole mentioned this a little bit earlier about like putting yourself out there and um, looking for opportunities at each of your respective schools. Were there a lot of opportunities that you found academic wise, like extracurricular wise, that you were able to participate after transferring?
Yes, at Stanford, there are just so many opportunities. Like, it's kind of insane. I mean, for like a lot of reasons, that's like what you would expect at Stanford. But there are just so many people who are so passionate about different fields and what they do. And from there, they do a lot of incredible research and host a lot of different programs and events on campus. I just got into a memory lab on campus that is through the Symbolic Systems department at Stanford. And yeah, I mean, it's really all about connecting with faculty and professors because they are just so committed to your learning and your growth. And so I reached out to like my SimSys or Symbolic Systems like classes teaching coordinator, and she got me in contact with a professor on campus within the psychology department who was looking for research assistants. And from there, it kind of just, led to me applying and then getting to know the professor of the lab. And yeah, and that's how I got involved. Admittedly, my extracurricular social life or extracurricular life at Stanford has been pretty minimal just because I'm dedicating so much time to my courses. It's like kind of crazy. Like as Ted mentioned, like I have to like for a class that you'd expect to dedicate like 5 hours to at community college, like that same class here, at Stanford, you can dedicate literally 15 to 20 hours to. Like I took math, like calculus when I was at community college, but they didn't transfer my math credits. And so I have to retake it here. And it's like I'm spending triple the amount of time I used to spend on it in community college. But yeah, there are just so many opportunities around here and different ways to find them. We really utilize like Handshake, and they also have a bunch of newsletters that you can sign up to get like notifications about what you can get involved in. I know one of them, like I got an email the other day of like this like hackathon that the winners would get like dinner with a like startup founder at Nobu, and I was like, this is like really crazy. But there are just like a lot of things like that, and it's just up to you again to like go out and look for them because they're always there. It's just that you need to have that ambition to ask yourself where can I sign up for this club's newsletter, or how can I get in contact with professors within my major department so I can get involved with research. So always be open to asking questions and never say no.
Oh yeah, the topic about transfer credit acceptance, that is a whole nother story. Some those private institutions are kind of stingy in like what they accept as transfer and not. I finished until like data structures, and all they gave me was intro to Python. So please keep an eye out on that as well. In terms of extracurricular and what I'm engaged in, I feel like I did a bunch of things. Last semester I rushed a fraternity. I was working on like a ML project. And then like of course 4 classes and adjusting to my life in MIT. But this semester I'm doing 2 research positions. One is at a brain and cognitive sciences department, and I'm working on like speech perception and artificial neural networks. But for the second research position, I just like recently got it like a week ago. It was a funny story. I was in my intro to machine learning class, and the professor was like, explaining what his research is doing. And after the class, I was super interested in what he was doing. So I just like quickly talked to him, and I got a research position on the spot, which is insane to think about. And like, it's just like, and I just like fill out all the forms, and now I'm apparently a part of the artificial intelligence laboratory. So And I'm also in the pistol team. I just really enjoy shooting, and MIT really have like a really strong pistol team, and I'm just like going there every day. Of course, that ties into the point of balancing your academics with the things that you still do just for the fun of it. And I think it is also important to like balance this, have this kind of balance when you transfer as well. And maybe doing all these research and everything on the side, but you should also leave some time for like, your extracurriculars and what you do for fun. For example, you could hang out and play board games at your fraternity house yesterday or things like that. Definitely do try to leave some time for that. But finding extracurriculars, like Nicole mentioned, isn't really difficult. You just have to have the initiative to like actively look for it and put your face that on outside that you're actively looking for this, and some of the leads will eventually come to you, and you will understand like how to utilize and which one you should utilize as well. They have a phrase in MIT called drinking out of a fire hose. It just basically means there's just so many things that is gonna be thrown at you that you have to like. It feels as if you're drinking out of a fire hose, and the key idea is that you should also like understand what kind of fire hose you should be drinking out of, and fully utilize your time and energy on what you really enjoy doing, because that's what your time at MIT or Stanford or any university is going to
Thank you both for sharing, and this will be our last question before we move into our breakout rooms, which is there anything you regret adding or not including in your application?
No, I feel like what I added or what my application looked like was something that I was really proud of. And I don't think I necessarily regret adding anything just because I loved everything I did that I included in my application. In terms of things like I wish I added, um, I forgot to add that like one extracurricular that was like kind of big. And when I realized like I forgot to add it, I was like, oh my God, like this is like I'm so upset. Like, how did I forget to add this one? Um, but that was like also kind of my fault because I did start my applications a little bit later than one would recommend. But everything ended up working out. So I guess like a takeaway that you guys can learn from my experience is like to not start very late. But I also like would say not to start super early. I feel like a lot of people have this like idea that, okay, I'm going to start my application like 5 months before it's due, and then like do a bunch of drafts for my essays, and then be ready to submit it. I actually find that to be a little bit unproductive just because um, as community college students, we spend like only a few years at community college. And so there is still so much for you to learn and get involved with and do within the time that you have like during your year prior to transferring. And so a lot of the impactful things I did like at my last 2 quarters at community college. And if I had started my application like way earlier than that, I wouldn't have been able to write about these experiences and the lessons that I've learned. And so really give yourself time to fully experience what you're involved in, create meaningful impact. And then once, like I would say maybe 1 to 2 months before the application deadline, then you can start working on it. Don't feel like you need to start the summer before or like the fall before they're due, because private transfer applications are due in winter, spring kind of. But that's like generally the advice that I would give.
All right. A no-brainer tip. Please do not start your application 3 days before the application deadline in the middle of a Senate student government meeting like me. And I try to start much earlier, please. Because I miss a ton of things in my application that I didn't add. For example, I miss a really minor detail of writing an entire research paper and like not adding that, or like a ton of the awards that I missed, and I just like completely forgot I had those awards and I never added them. But yeah, Yeah, that was just one of my regrets because I think that research paper that I did, it was like a political science research paper on like my country's situation. And I thought it would have been super relevant and would have like contributed a better view of my application. But I mean, things worked out and here I am. So I don't necessarily regret not editing that, but if I had another chance, I would have probably added that. And in terms of what I regret adding, not really. There isn't anything. I have no regrets on that because, I mean, I think every part of my application played a good factor in my decision to be here, and I would still add them again. But yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. So now we're going to move into breakout rooms. This is your opportunity to ask more like personalized questions to either Nicole or Ted. And then don't worry, you're going to have time with both of them in each breakout room to ask them both questions. So there's enough time for everybody. Victor, whenever you're ready for that.
Yep, I will be creating them right now. Just give me one moment. Bro, I have to search them? It's crazy. Sorry, just give me 1 second.
Okay, y'all, if you want to start your breakout rooms, going to them, that'd be great.
Victor.
Yeah, what's up?
Yep. Yeah. Apparently, like the breakout room that you assigned had both of the panelists in it. So, like, can you send me another breakout room?
Sorry, give me one. Where's the room two?
I think Nicole was in room two. I
Oh,
should have been.
okay, I'm gonna move you to room one.
Right. Fire.
Yeah.
Do you want to just move these people?
Yeah, sorry. It gives me an entire list. So I can't see like who's who where. Okay, this is really annoying. Okay. Two. Can you see the breakout rooms, Allison? Room one and room
Yeah,
two.
yeah, I can.
So room one has Nicole in it already?
No, room one has Ted, and then room two has Nicole. I don't know how to move people to the room. Like, I think they have to click accept.
Yeah. Do you guys have a prompt on your guys' screen to accept moving into a room?
I just realized I also don't know how to switch them. Or actually, they could just stay there and Nicole, we can just move Nicole and Ted.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Um, it's okay. Do you want to just go to the breakout rooms? Because I don't think we can move them.
Yo, do they just start asking questions to them?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not facilitated?
No, no.
No, 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 no.
Bro,
Like you, okay, like he's supposed to facilitate.
Yeah. I think it came in late. So I didn't get the memo.
Okay, well, I think we should just go to the breakout rooms.
Okay, I'm gonna go room 2.
Okay. We'll also go room 2. Okay, I think everyone has mainly trickled out back into the main breakout room. Um, so we have two things left. First of all, Nicole and Ted have been very gracious and has allowed me to share their LinkedIns, which I will drop in the chat for y'all to reach out if you have any further questions about transferring or any school specific questions or anything like that. They'd be more than happy for y'all to reach out. But just for one last question for both of y'all, what is some advice? What's one piece of advice, if you could say anything, um, about your experience? What would you say?
Be ambitious. Go out of your way to find opportunities. Don't expect for them to just come to you.
I guess my advice is just like try everything and see what sticks. It is gonna be like significant time exploring what you want and what you need. And like once you get that down, just commit to it. And also the fact that there's gonna be obstacles that are coming along the way, and it is gonna be inevitable, unfortunately. But these obstacles doesn't necessarily define who you are. It is like what you do in the face of these kind of obstacles that defines who you are. So always like understand that better days are gonna coming and better days are gonna be coming, and that you can like work hard to like see the end of them.
Okay, a huge thank you to Nicole and Ted. Round of applause. Thank you so much for taking your time on this weekend to help all of us. And that's it. That was our private transfer panel. We recorded the entire thing, so if y'all missed a little bit or wanted to come back and watch some parts, it will be uploaded to our YouTube within the next couple of days for y'all to look at that. Besides that, I hope everybody has an amazing Saturday. Um, have a great day.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Okay. Now that it's just us, thank you so much for attending. This was amazing, and y'all were the best, super responsive. The questions were great. Did y'all have any questions about like, I think I went over payment. Like, is there anything I could answer for y'all?
It's okay. Just like follow me up on that. I'll just
Yeah.
like respond. Yeah.
Mhm.